How we doing YouTube? It's your friendly gamer SmartEntity here. So today we're basically going to have a first look on the Latron Wraith. So the Latron Wraith, for those that have not got it, chances are you probably never will. The way to get this weapon is basically through the Quanta event. Now the event is now over, it ended a few hours ago. You did need to score 3,000 points in the event to get the Latron Wraith weapon. Now, before I say anything else, the Latron Wraith honestly is a great weapon. Now, as a quick summary, overall it is, I would say, not as strong as the Latron Prime for in-game play, but it does sound better, it does feel better, and with a higher fire rate, it's pretty much better than the Latron Prime as far as low-level gameplay, because enemies are gonna die one hit anyway. But once you are at that sort of 60-minute, T3, T4 survival, I probably would recommend using the Latron Prime. Now, having said that, I haven't formatted my Latron Wraith yet. Once I put in 5 formats to put that sort of 6 polarity max build, I will do another sort of final look video if you like. Now, the Latron Wraith, as far as modding goes, is different to the Latron Prime. So Latron Prime, you mod it the same way as your Boulder Prime, as your Braden Prime, as your Burston Prime, so a standard max damage build. The Latron Wraith, you want to mod it like your Soma, your Synapse, your Amprex, or crit build. Now, I am in a T3 mobile defense right now, so the Latron Wraith is rank 30. Currently I have max duration, max split chamber, max point strike, vital sense, coil rounds, and infected clip. And as you can see, it can definitely hold its own. Now, I've actually tried using this rank 30 with the build I just said against the Void War. It took a few shots to kill him basically. Now, at this stage, just thinking back on what the Boulder Prime and what the Latron Prime were like without any formers, I definitely kind of feel the Boulder Prime and the Latron Prime were stronger. Now, as a quick sum up of the weapon, so it is semi-automatic, it's heat scan, so what that means is you push the button, the trigger button, and then it'll automatically and instantly connect with enemies, no matter how far away they are. And it does pretty much have infinite range, so, pretty much like the Latron Prime. Now, one of the things that I am thinking about currently is whether I should put a max heavy caliber on this weapon. If you think about the Latron Prime, which for all intents and purposes is a sniper weapon like the Latron Wraith, you do need to put a heavy caliber on that weapon despite the loss of accuracy for headshots, because you need 5 elementals on there, right? So you got Serration, Split Chamber, plus 5 elementals. Now, obviously putting in a max heavy caliber would benefit all 5 elementals, versus putting in something like another elemental, which would not benefit any of the other elementals directly because it's not base damage. The thing with the Latron Wraith is you do a crit build, so you put in your point strike as well as your vital sense in there, which means it's less elementals. Of course, if you put a heavy caliber in there, DPS wise, as far as trigger happy goes, it's going to give you a higher DPS. But it will decrease the likelihood of hitting headshots. And of course, because there's less elementals and point strike as well as vital sense, it provides base damage once you hit the crit. I guess what I'm trying to say is this weapon will not suffer as badly as the Latron Prime without a max heavy caliber because of the use of those crit mods. Now, I'll have to do a bit of testing, and I will sort of go over that once I do put the 5 formats on, but that's definitely something to consider, because I am loving the headshots with this weapon, especially with a high rate of fire. It does kill, even heavy gunners quite decently fast as well. Now, here's the build that I used in that quick video clip. As I mentioned before, the Latron Prime and the Boulder Prime felt a bit stronger than the Latron Wraith. If these weapons are just potato and ranked to 30 and unformatted. Now, that's not actually surprising, because that's what we tend to see with things like the Soma, the Amprex as well. These crit type weapons really shine when they're fully formatted, versus something like the Boulder Prime and the Latron Prime, where they don't, I guess the increase in power isn't as much as the crit type weapons because they are already quite decently strong without formers. Now the reason for that is because these crit type weapons have these crit base damage modifiers. The mathematics is quite simple and it's quite easy to see, but for those of you that may be a bit confused or may not quite understand, just trust me, crit type weapons really exponentially shine with each additional former, whereas non-crit type weapons, they shine more linearly, let's say. It's not exactly linear, but less exponential as you add more formers compared to these crit type weapons. But having said that, that doesn't mean they're weaker, because they have a stronger damage when they are unformed. Now, if that is a bit too confusing, just ignore that last part and we'll move on. So a quick look here. I'm just going to do a quick final comparison between the Latron Prime and the Latron Wraith. So on the left of the screen here, I have the Latron Wraith, and on the right, I have the Latron Prime. As I said before, with the increased fire rate, the Latron Wraith is a bit better at dealing with lower level enemies because you can kill them faster with higher rate of fire. Now, the crit chance is 25%. Now, not as a, I guess, law, but as a soft guideline for what I've seen, I would say 25% is the lowest crit chance percentage that warrants a crit build. Now, the reason I say it's a soft guideline because to warrant a crit build, you're looking at 3 factors, right? You're looking at crit chance, crit multiplier, and the base damage. So to put a hypothetical weapon here, it's a bit of mathematics, but it's quite simple to see. For a weapon that has, say, 10% crit chance, a 10 crit multiplier, and say a 10 base damage, right? Even though the crit chance is only 10%, because of the high multiplier and the low base damage, you have to do a crit build. Similarly, for a weapon, say that is 50% crit chance, but the crit multiplier is 1.05, and the base damage is 100, despite the 50% crit chance, you still want to do a maximum damage build, not a crit build, because the base damage is so high that each additional elemental mod you put on is all going to benefit from that, whereas the multiplier is so low that even though you have a high crit chance, the crit mods won't benefit the weapon that much because of the low crit multiplier. So that aside, 25% is my soft guideline for a crit build. Now, as far as starters goes, even ever since Damage 2.0 came out, which was what, month ago, I still don't feel starters, as far as weapons go, have a role to play in this game. As far as Warframe power abilities go, sometimes it does come into play because it's AoE and you affect multiple enemies. As far as these rifle weapon goes, where you're affecting one enemy at a time, I still don't feel starters have any role to play. Magazine size is 15, reload speed 2.4, none of that changes. And of course the Latron Wraiths do have a slightly lower overall base damage, which is countered by a crit build. So all in all, what does this all mean? It basically means, if you haven't fully formed your Boulder Prime, have that as your priority. But if you have formed everything, I would at this stage consider the Latron Prime to be top tier, and it's definitely worth your formers at some stage in the game. Alrighty, so that's pretty much all I want to say about the Latron Prime at this stage. Once I do put in those sort of 5 more polarities, I definitely do plan to do another sort of final look on this weapon, have a head-on-head, I guess, comparison with the Latron Prime all fully formed, because it's one thing to put mods in Warframe Builder, quite a different thing to actually take the weapon to a 60-minute T3, T4 survival, and unleashing clips on those sort of heavy gunners. Now, as a bit of a side note, this is more for my, I guess, loyal, dedicated viewers, subscribers. I'm just going to cover the Quanta and the Karyst, so 2 weapons from Update 14 that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Now, the Quanta, which is what I'm using here in this T3 mob defense, is a weapon that I thought had a lot of potential, but as far as high-level gameplay and practicality goes, it didn't. Now, the primary fire, which according to the stats page says it has 220 base damage, honestly, it has way too low a rate of fire for it to be useful. The secondary fire, which is this, I guess, explosive blob damage, definitely much more useful than the mutiless Quanta. And with the nerf on a lot of the launcher type weapons, I thought this might be a good alternative as far as explosive weapon goes. And again, unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, the best place I found is where it's most effective to use this is in a survival where you have a lot of enemies stuck here in this corridor, and then you just launch, right? It looks quite spectacular. But the problem with that is, one, it's obviously situational, and two, at high levels, it's not very practical. The other problem that I found with this secondary fire is, yes, it has a decent, I guess, traveling projectile once you shoot, but after a while, which I'll demonstrate here, it slows down. I mean, the traveling distance is quite decent. Okay, so that's not very productive. I'll just shoot one here. So the traveling distance is okay, but then you see here it slows down. Now, the problem with this is another place where I guess people would want to use launcher type weapons is in defense, so your Orkan Darlet defense, or I guess a dark sector defense. And people always want to, stand on some high ground and shoot down. But if this thing stops after, I mean, how many meters is that? So after about, 10 to 15 meters or so, it's again very situational. So it's for this reason that, a weapon with a lot of, I guess, innovation, good idea, but because of its, I guess, limited practical use, I'm gonna have to put this weapon in a mastery rank only purpose weapon, i.e. as far as my gameplay goes, I'm not gonna put any potato or formers on. I'm just gonna use it for mastery rank. But having said that, this is a very fun weapon in low level gameplay. These blobs, you're gonna have so much fun with these blobs. I've done this with Mirage, and man, it is decently strong, right? Even in, I guess, your sort of level 30 to level 60, it's decently strong. And I'm talking about a weapon that, it's not even potato, right? But then again, any weapon using my max Mirage specialized build is strong, so that doesn't really say that much for it. So next we'll have a quick look at the Karyst, or the Karyst, I have no idea how to pronounce that. And before I go, so just to quickly mention, this is a clan tech weapon you raise in your energy lab, which obviously as usual takes 3 days, so 72 hours, and then you need to build it. It does cost a former, by the way, so be prepared to have that. And surprisingly, this weapon costs 7 Futuron, so if you don't have any Futuron, it might be time to play a few invasion missions to get that stocked up. And so 24 hours for the build, and then you get this original yet not very practical weapon. Okay, here I have the Karyst, or Karyst, however you want to call it. Basically, it is a dagger, and honestly, I'll just put it out there, it's pretty much for mastery rank purposes only. It offers, little to no traveling utility, so I do have a max fury on there right now. As you can see, it pretty much offers little to no traveling utility. Attack speed is slow, and damage, even though it's pretty much the highest dagger type weapon damage, it's pretty low, right? And besides, in this weapon, there's never a restriction on saying you have to use dagger in a mission, or you have to use melee in a weapon. So overall, it's not very strong. The Dragon Arcana pretty much outclasses it as a heavy hitter, so you want to use the channeling build with this weapon because it doesn't offer high speed and it doesn't offer any crit build. So with its reasonably above average base damage, it's pretty much a channeling build, and as far as that goes, it's not very good. So I'm not going to put a former in, I'm not going to put a potato in. I've ranked to level 30 now, so after this video, it's just going to go into the arsenal and collect dust there until the Prime, or the Wraith, or the Vandal comes out. Okay, so this new dagger is quite simple. You buy the blueprint from the market. Now it costs 1 Argon, 100 Oxium. So overall, the resource requirement is extremely basic. A lot of people have issues with Argon crystals. Honestly, I never understood why, because throughout the time that since these crystals came out, I would say I've had at least 100 of them decay, right? So they do drop like peanuts, and they decay, well, like radiation, I guess. So overall, quite an easy weapon to get. But yeah, for a weapon that's for mastery rank purposes only, what do you expect? Alright guys, so that's it pretty much for today. Now I do have quite a few other videos coming out in the next few days. Just been changed to Vauban and Nyx. I am extremely annoyed about the change to Nyx. I'll definitely do a video on that. Basically, in short, the change means that Nyx is still a very strong frame for low-level gameplay, but when you are at 60-minute plus T3, T4 survival, Nyx is not as viable. So I'll do a video on that. And there's quite a few specialized builds I'm releasing in the next couple of weeks as well. Alright guys, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.